I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Law Firm Owner Podcast, episode number 209. Welcome to the Law Firm Owner Podcast, powered by Velocity Work, for owners who want to grow a firm that gives them the life they want. Get crystal clear on where you're going, take planning seriously, and honor your plan like a pro. This is the work that creates velocity. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode. I am thrilled that you're here, and I'm thrilled that I have two remarkable guests on today's podcast. One, you have heard before, Tara Gronhovd. Welcome back.
I'm thrilled to be here and excited to bring someone along with me this time.
Yeah. Okay. So, Pamela, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I am always willing to tag along with Tara.
Tara, if you just want to quickly give a recap of who you are and what you do for listeners that may be new, and then maybe share a bit about the second guest today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Tara Gronhovd. I own Align, and I work with leaders and teams to help them work even better together. And Pamela is part of the Align coaching staff. So she is a leadership coach, but she's also a leadership counselor. And we work very closely together with leaders and with teams because a lot of the work that we do uncovers deeper work that needs to be done. And Pamela is better qualified to handle some of that deeper work. And so, I bring Pamela into any room that will allow me to bring her.
Yeah. I'm really glad that you did bring her into a room with us recently here at Velocity Work.
To be in those spaces. I tend to just notice certain things because of my background and doing one-to-ones with people, but also with teams. And sometimes there are things that arise within us, especially you guys have just been doing a recent podcast on trust. And there's curiosities that happen within our brain, but also happen in our body. And so they're just things that I'm trained to notice and help people notice within themselves. And sometimes those things even get triggered when we talk about trust. So, Tara, would it be okay to kind of recap what happened on the first podcast?
Yeah. So, in the previous episode, we talked about, Melissa, you and I talked about the 4 distinctions of trust. So we're doing some work with your team around trust, and Pamela and I do these trust intensives or workshops to help teams learn how to work better together, but also give language to trust because it's such a difficult concept. And Melissa, I think you have the definition of trust in front of you because you've been since we talked about it. Would you mind reading it so I don't get it wrong?
Yeah, it's on a Post-it in front of me. Trust, choosing to risk making something you value vulnerable to another person's actions. Which to me, when I heard that definition, my jaw dropped on the floor because that is it. And as a business owner, the context that I go to in these settings, because I think that's true universally speaking, but as a business owner with the business, like the business is this thing that you value as an owner, you've brought it to life. And so when you have a team and other people start handling certain aspects of the company, you're choosing to risk making something you value, the company, vulnerable to another person's actions. And I have found that extremely difficult. A rewarding journey, a worthy journey, of figuring this out, but that's been tough. And I know I'm not alone in that.
Well, it's why a lot of business owners stay small. It's why a lot of businesses stay small, because that is a challenging journey to go on and to figure out how to build something that someone else can take, but also how to entrust other people with something that is so important to us, especially when the kind of work that you do, Melissa, is so highly built on trust with clients, building trust with clients. So the trust work that we do, we use Charles Feltman's book, The Thin Book of Trust, and it gives simplified language for how to talk about trust in the workplace. And so the 4 distinctions of trust are sincerity. Do you mean what you say and say what you mean? Competence. I'm getting these out of order, but competence. Are you capable of doing what you say you'll do? So do you have the right skills, the right authority, the right context to be able to follow through on what you say? Do you have the right talents? right? So if I tell you that I'm going to spell check something, you might not trust that I'm going to be able to do that well, because that isn't necessarily my skill set, right?
Reliability.
Yeah, thank you. Reliability. So reliability is following through on what you said you would do. So keeping your promises. The trick with reliability is sometimes we don't realize we've made promises. So there's unspoken or unclear expectations, and that can erode trust between colleagues and on teams. And then care. Do you really take into consideration my needs when you're making decisions? Do I feel like you care about me as a person beyond the outcome that I can produce for you? So those are the 4 distinctions of trust. When we walk through that as a team, with any team, it will bring up some really difficult emotions. It will bring up some challenging kind of worldviews and experiences from our past that help us frame whether or not we find people trustworthy, right? And as a team, we have to get to a place where we can trust each other so that we can be effective. Melissa, you talk about speed and ease, right? Like we want to be able to move fast, and we want to do it with ease. Without trust, it's not possible. Without trust, it's clunky and hard and painful, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt both sides of that. And more recently, because of the work we've done with you guys, more recently, I have felt speed with ease. And that's felt really good. I have experienced that in bits before. Now it's different. I can really feel the momentum that feels good, not like the wheels are coming off and where I'm just trying to hang on and I don't trust that things are getting done. Like it's just I've been on the other side before where it's just not that. It's not speed and ease. So yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback there, Melissa, on something that Tara said about it raises up emotions. So I just wanted to clarify that emotions really are information. They are not always all true. They are not always all false. They're not always all good or all bad. They're information that we have to be curious about to say, what is this rising up in me and why? Is it something that is for the present of what I'm experiencing? Does it have to do with the fact that I didn't have a good breakfast? Does it have to do with an old former work story that's coming forward? And it's my work to be curious about what's happening within me when there's a talking around trust, and I might immediately go to a story in my head about a person that I don't trust. And so I've got this person in the back of my head, and I'm thinking of them and the horrible things that they did to break trust with me. So then if ever in a meeting or along the way that someone says, well, I don't trust her, or I don't trust her to do that, whatever it is, immediately that person who's in my head who broke trust with me comes forward, and I am now lumped into that, story. So it dysregulates our brains. And actually, I've done this before, that if we hear from someone that says, well, I don't trust you, or I don't trust you with that, it's like our brain goes into fight or flight. All I hear is something muffled after that, and everything else you say is gone out of my brain. And it's my responsibility to know that that is happening within me. And I do want managers and leaders to know that is a really destructive statement. And so it's really important to provide clarity around these 4 areas. That's why these distinctions are so important, because someone might hear, I don't trust you. And you probably talked about this last time, Tara, and you're not saying that I don't feel like you don't care about me, but you haven't learned how to manage your schedule yet. And I don't feel you're reliable to finish it on time. So let's talk about the time area of trusting you. I do believe you care. I need to see some improvement in benchmarks on your deliverables for me. And that comes with repeatable, provable behavior over time. And so this is where we start to repair trust, because I'm starting to see consistency from you that, yes, I can trust you to be reliable. So let's unpack that just a little bit. What questions do you have, Melissa?
Well, first of all, I like that you brought up emotions. We've talked a little bit about this idea of emotional immaturity or emotional maturity. And so I feel like you're sort of touching on that a bit. So I'd love to hear more about that. And I stated before the recording that I am familiar with the term just through my coaching background and where I received certification and mentorship, which was this concept of emotional childhood. And that in a nutshell, emotional childhood is when you don't have the capacity or you don't take responsibility for the way that you feel. So another way of saying that is you put in someone else's hands the responsibility for your feeling state to be the way you want it, or blame on someone because you aren't feeling the way that you wish that you would feel. So I feel like you're just being able to get in tune with your emotions so that you have information, because you're saying that they are information, which I totally agree with.
Yeah.
Is a starting place that's maybe imperative to do the work.
Well, and we aren't given language for this. So I know that I'm a Gen Xer. Pamela, you're Gen X. I don't know, Melissa, where you fall. You're Gen X. We were not given language for how to talk about our emotions. In fact, it was highly important that we mask, cover, cut off our emotions to manage our life. And so a lot of what we're dealing with now is recognizing emotions absolutely impact everything that we do. And by ignoring or pretending like they don't have value, that they aren't information, that they don't exist, which is what I think a lot of us want to do. Like, they don't belong here, right? They don't belong at work. Leave them out of the doors. Like, leave those in your car and then come into the office, please. It's not real because we are emotional beings. But we just don't have language, and we haven't been given the skills or really learned how to do this with emotional maturity. And so you see a lot of adults walking around with emotional immaturity because we're starting to honor emotions, but we have no idea how to handle them.
Mm-hmm. And if you guys are both willing to talk about a little more about in the workplace and as owners, everyone listening to this typically is an owner. And when they are dealing with their team members, just the idea of emotional maturity, I am hoping that you'll go more into thinking from an owner's perspective about how they can use this concept of emotional maturity in their favor. But I'm really glad we're talking about emotions because people don't know how to talk about emotions, especially in the workplace. Like, it feels like not okay. But from my training and background, which I wonder how what you guys have learned and experienced and been trained on and have degrees in, how it lines up is I think emotions are powerful. Like, you can use them for good. You can use them to get the results that you want, but not if you're not in tune with them. Like, you have to start to just have an awareness of what you're feeling and that you can create and generate on purpose emotions. And so I feel like I'm giving you two big things: emotional maturity. I would love to hear what you have to say on that. And then how can we use emotions for our benefit in the workplace, with our team, for results that we want to create?
I'll hop in there.
Okay, cool.
I don't know how many of your listeners may have seen that Disney movie that talked a little bit about emotions. Was it Inside Out?
Inside Out.
Yeah, Inside Out. And it showed you what was happening in somebody's head.
Yeah. It was like a panel. A panel.
Yeah, it was a total panel, and it had a control panel, and it had one person that hijacked the other. And, and it was hilarious because it was animated, but so real. Because, one was trying to knock the other one out of the way, and one was bossy, and, all of it. And then here is this character who is trying to function. And yet sometimes I say it's me and the other 6 people in my head as I try to go about doing my business. And that is really common for everyone. And so as we're looking at the functionality of using emotions, exactly like what you said, Melissa, is that we move from emotional infancy, which I think is the terminology that I learned, is that infancy, that's really everything about how I'm dysregulated. And so infancy has me crying out for help. It has me doing things that I can't do on my own. But what I've learned is that as an adult, I have a choice for what to do when those emotions come up. And when I learn that they're information, I check in with myself. And sometimes that's done instantaneously, and I don't really have to be aware of that checking in. But if I, as a manager, am leading someone that you've noticed gets dysregulated, very quickly and checks out or brings in a highly activated emotional presence into your team, then that's something that we get to learn to grow in, just like all of us. Tara and I love to do a grounded leadership training because we recognize the grounding is the soil of how we may have shown up at a certain place, where we're at in our maturity, where we're at in our leadership. And in order to grow, I have to recognize, again, things about myself that I take ownership of. So I am going to, as an emotionally mature person, be able to take feedback and to recognize, like, I am staying in a place of perhaps being a victim. And perhaps you have experienced trauma. Perhaps there has been a former workplace where you did not have a healthy leader like yourself, Melissa, or others that are coming into that place, and it has not felt healthy for you to be there. So you develop coping mechanisms to be able to handle all of that. If someone stays in a victim place, that's not healthy for anyone on your team. It produces almost a post-traumatic trauma effect on the whole team. But when I've learned that even though I've experienced hard things in my life, I can actually grow through trauma when I do process it through with myself, perhaps with a licensed counselor, walking through outside of a workplace where there needs to be deliverables quickly, walking through outside of it, my own training, a lot like how I would train myself. If I was on an NFL football team, I would not show up to training camp, had not worked my body or my mind or my spirit on the off season. My off season may be outside of work, but I take that personal responsibility to do the work that I need to do so that I can show up the best for my team. And that's where I move from being in a victim place to actually being a victor. And now I have a resilience muscle I couldn't have had without that hard experience. So I'm not going to let the hard experience define me as a victim. I'm actually going to use it to give me resilience to be able to relate to people who have had hard experiences and show them how you can grow through it.
What do you want to add, Tara?
So you hear that, and if you've not done any of this work before, that might feel overwhelming, right? To think about that kind of emotional work for our team, because we do a lot of work with teams and leaders of teams. And when we're working with leaders and owners, especially, because as you said before, that business is your baby. Like, that business is what you're protecting. That business is important. And so you need your team to show up emotionally mature. First, you need to show up emotionally mature as a leader. So that's step one. So it's very possible that you have people on your team who need to do this work. But I would say that typically when we get brought in and it's, hey, will you come fix my team? We usually pause with the leader and say, let's do some work here first, right? Because it's possible that you are a very healthy, grounded leader, and it's possible that you have some work to do yourself.
Mm-hmm. It's more likely that you have some work to do yourself.
It is highly likely. It's highly likely, unless you've really been on your own journey and you're hearing all of this and you're very aware of all of that for yourself and you know what you've done. If you've never done any of this work, guaranteed there's work to do. Because again, there is nothing in law school. There is nothing in business school. There is nothing in the entrepreneurial handbook that none of us got for how to do this, right? We don't learn these skills. So it's important that as leaders, we recognize we've got our own work to do. And until we do, their meaning our team members' challenges with their emotions are going to continue to trigger our own. And when we can show up grounded and not blowing in the wind with however our team is doing, because we know that we're secure, that we're okay, that we can handle what's coming, then we can help them get grounded. And we can provide a safer space for them to do that. We can provide a place for them to do that, and we'll talk here in a little bit, maybe where I'd like to go is also not taking too much ownership of it, because I think that's the other place. And that's the thing that owners like, how much of this do I have to be responsible for? Right. Mm-hmm. Pamela, you were going to say something.
Yeah, because I did just want to give some signs from a psychological point of view of what an emotionally mature person looks like. So here is straight from their website that they are flexible, that they recognize not everything is going to go to plan. And so we can opt for plan B or plan C. I'm not going to get dysregulated if everything doesn't go as to plan. I get to flex in my mind because I'm not victimized to a certain order of things. So first is being flexible. Second is taking ownership and responsibility. I am able to own my part and responsibility that I'm going to grow from that or learn or be trustworthy, as we've talked about before. They know that they don't know everything. So they show up as a learner. They show up teachable. They don't always have to be right, but they are willing to be able to consider another opportunity. And because they don't know everything, they hear other people's thoughts. They understand other people's strengths, and they're a better employee because they are a teammate. They look for learning and growth from every opportunity. So a failure doesn't become a failure. They don't become a victim to failure. They learn from it. And so they get the opportunity to be better next time. They actively seek out multiple points of view to help inform their own. We all have information bias, and I come already with a bias of what I think. And so when I'm emotionally mature, I want to get different viewpoints. I'm not threatened by them. And then number six, they stay resilient. And by the way, we'll put this in the show notes as well. And then they have a calm disposition. They're able to peacefully sit back and rationally dictate how to effectively deal with a situation and come to a resolution. And that's number seven. Number eight, they believe in themselves. Emotionally mature, they don't have a false sense of self that's ego-based and really diluted, but they are optimistic that they can contribute. And because they believe in themselves, they're not threatened by somebody's critique or, loving criticism. They're actually approachable. They're emotionally mature and approachable to talk with people, not at people. And I love the last one that they have here. It says they have a good sense of humor. They can laugh at themselves. And so these are just really great tools to say, hey, how are you on these 10 things? And where, and even a talking point for a coach with someone where I'd love to see some growth is in this area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Those bullets are good. I don't know. The whole time I'm thinking about, oh, I got that box checked. Oh, wait, I don't have that one checked. I don't have that.
I was doing the same thing.
Yeah. But the ones that I don't have checked, although it's shifting, and Tara and I just had a conversation about this today in a session, is the first one that you read, or maybe it was the second one, but basically you're talking about dysregulation happens. Oh, it's flexible.
Yeah, being flexible. Mm-hmm.
And I have had a hard time for a while about things need to go, we need to make a plan and it needs to go well. And if it doesn't go well, why didn't it go well? And I get hung up on things. And there's this hypervigilance on my end that kicks into gear. And it's I don't know how to be a different way. I'm trying. I don't want to be that way. And I don't know how to be different. And you're trying to be nice to other humans that are involved in this, right? And I struggle with that. But this is all shifted recently, which has felt really good. And no doubt the trust workshop stuff that we've done with you guys has played a part. I can't see the direct links, but I know without doing that work, I would not be sitting here feeling the way I'm feeling. And I mean, in a positive way about my company and about the team that is in it. But something that Tara helped me realize was that the shifts that have happened in the company have allowed me to raise my head and look out further. And I don't have a lot of opportunity to do that. It's my head is down and I'm very focused on the here and now. And there's been some decisions that I've made that has given me the space to sort of raise my gaze. And that has made it so that somehow, so maybe Tara, you can explain this. I am, as a byproduct, more flexible. The vigilance is gone, or the hypervigilance.
I think part of what you're experiencing, Melissa, is that you've shifted what success looks like. And so when you're super focused on everything going well, smoothly as the definition of success, then everything is a threat. everything that looks imperfect is a threat to that, right? You making some really wise decisions. And I mean, we talked about this, but you've done some really smart things in the business that have led to the ability to be in this place. So I don't want to discredit that, but you taking a minute and taking time to be able to, or the opportunity to step back, look up, look out, has anchored you to something different, and your focus has shifted. And now success is something more than just everything going smoothly.
Yeah, though that's 100% true. But when you first said that, I was just thinking, gosh, I wish that wasn't the sentence because that feels so hard. People talk about what's your definition of success. I did not deliberately change my definition of success. My definition of success changed. I didn't do that. I don't know how to explain that.
No, I hear you. It didn't feel intentional. It's not like you said, I have an issue with how I'm defining success.
No.
And so now I'm going to intentionally change it. That is what happened. You did shift what you were focused on, like how you were focused on success, but it happened organically. But I think having an awareness that it might be getting in your way can be helpful.
That is the part that it does feel like I have an awareness based on conversations we've had about how things have shifted, but I'm just in the shift and it all feels good, but I'm not even sure why it feels good. But then talking to you helped me realize why it feels good. It is the very thing that you just said, but it's like a byproduct of things that like decisions that made behind the scenes, the work that we've done with you guys. And so when you said so plainly in that sentence, you've shifted your definition of success, I'm like, oh, I don't want listeners to think that it's that
just like
simple.
A switch you flipped.
Yeah, because this has been a long road and a lot of emotions, right? Like frustration. There's been highs and there's been lows, and there'll be more of those. Like I don't think that's done, but there's something has shifted, and it is a result of all the little things along the way and all the decisions that you keep stacking up one in front of the other, and then it feels like I'm starting to experience something differently. Pamela, I don't know what you have to say here, but
I've been just like chomping at the bit. I'm like, what's shifted is your experience with perfectionism, which actually is really rooted in fear. I know you want to have it perfect, but what's shifted is you're no longer trying to mitigate from a fearful place what success looks like. It doesn't look like this or the fears underneath it. By just having the conversation around even flexibility for you, Melissa, by just naming what has been hard, by just naming that you're on the journey, it all of a sudden lets off the pressure valve on this fear that's underneath not being perfect. And when you name something, that pressure valve comes off, and then you're 50% of the way there. And because you're having conversations around this with Tara and others, it actually tames what's happening, this kind of mythical perfection that has to be out there for everyone's experience, for every team member, for myself. And we come into the joy of celebrating the strengths, a reality of what we're doing. And along the way, are we going to improve? Certainly. But I'm not going to get hijacked if something doesn't go perfectly. And that's what I hear you saying. You're no longer operating from a fear place, and you maybe wouldn't have called it that, but underneath everything, it's kind of this like what we experience at the tip of the iceberg. Typically underneath, if we were to look under, there's a fear there, and naming it just mitigates it and lets the pressure valve off.
And I was just going to say, Pamela and I talk about this, really, we operate as human beings in two modes. We're either operating out of fear or security or love. Like fear and insecurity or security and love are the two modes. And so often when we're feeling stuck, it's because we are unintentionally operating in that fear or place of uncertainty and insecurity.
Right. I do not know how this is landing with listeners, but I know there is a large portion of listenership that has felt or is currently feeling weighed down by the things we were just talking about. Like you're focused on here and now, and things need to go right, and the details. And I think you have to do that for a while as an owner. Like you got to lift this business off the ground. So you pay attention to every little thing. You have to train new people, and you're trying to get that right. And it is actually tough to be able to get out of that so that you can raise your gaze. It's not impossible, and it doesn't happen overnight. And I get all that, but I'm just thinking for people listening, it's like, are they operating out of insecurity, right? Or fear? Yeah. Because they have had, like, they needed that mode to like get this going, but they're still in it and their head is down. And really, what they need and what the business needs and what the team needs is for you to somehow, and there's not a recipe for this, is to like lift your head and like there's a bunch of different things that maybe come into focus when you lift your head. But
so first of all, I'm a business owner and I am there more often than I'd like to admit. So this is a very real shared experience if you're a business owner. So I just want to say that please don't let there be any shame. As Pamela says, shame off you. Like, take that shame off because that's real. 2, you didn't do nothing to shift. You were intentional. So you have been intentional. And like, how are we going to get out of this day-to-day grind? You've been working on that, solving that puzzle for months.
yes, I hope that I am coming across. I'm trying to really get the picture across. It's one foot in front of the other. I do not have like this path. I'm like, oh, this is the path.
No, but this is the path for you. But I think there are pieces like, you're in the middle of it, so it's hard to see it probably really clearly. But my guess is there's a few pieces that we could tease out that need to be pieces for most people to get to that point. And one of them is to build trust with your team, because you can't let go and look up if you are ultimately responsible for every single thing. And so part of that investment, and sometimes people get lucky and they hire a few people and there's just gelled and it's great. It's really, really rare. I got to say, if you are someone who is like, I've never been a part of that, that's actually more common. So part of the work that you've done, like if I look at from the outside looking in, you do take time for your business. So you do work on your business, right? You're not just in the business all the time. And I think a lot of business owners, we all get stuck in the business. So you are intentional in taking time, whether it's in coaching or working. I know that you have other collaborators you spend time with just thinking about your business. So you do that work. You also have intentionally invested in strengths for your team to help you understand your team and help them understand each other. So you've invested some time and energy into that. And then you have invested a lot of time in developing workflows and processes to automate and make things easier. So you have been building infrastructure for this for a long time. And so maybe that path is going to look different for different business owners, but my guess is those 3 things are required for any scaling.
Mm-hmm. So the decision to invest with your company and the work and like time, just resources to invest in that and to align. And there's a couple of other investments we've made this year or in the recent months that it would be easy to not have done that. There's no guarantee that when you make an investment, there's just no guarantee. I mean, I will show up to get like the biggest ROI I can get out of it. Like I take responsibility for that. But talking about fear and insecurity, it's like these decisions, it's a series of decisions that you just named. Like there was a decision behind each one of those things that you named that I was not certain. Like it was like, okay, I'm going to decide that this is what we're doing and I'm going to make this decision. But is there fear? Yup. This is, a big investment of a lot of resources, not just money, but there's fear and insecurity, but you just keep trying your best. Like you keep showing up. Keep showing up. You keep showing up. It's like, even when, you feel the dips and then you feel a bit, you keep making the investments and you keep putting things towards it. I mean, we've had conversations before, like after trust workshops, and that, like, how do you know that this is the right team? How do you know? Like you were saying the responsibility earlier, you didn't speak to that yet, but
yeah,
you mentioned, Tara, that what burdens should you carry? And so I don't know if you could speak to that, but I had to really figure that out for myself. And you guys were a big part of that. So I don't know if you want to speak to that at all.
Yeah, maybe Pamela, you can talk about that, and then I'll come back to the business owner kind of angst around that.
Yeah. So how you are measuring growth in your team, that's what I was hearing you say, Melissa. Like there's been a ton of investment here, in them personally and growing the business and getting systems in place. To me, clear systems and communication says caring. It says, I care. It says, I value you. If I'm going to have this in a family system, it says, I love you. Good communication says that. And so you are already modeling that for your team, that you are investing in them, and they will want to know what you know when they know how much you care. So that caring aspect of seeing them as an individual, of giving them the training, of allowing for space of conversation is like step one.
They will
Want to know what you know. Yeah, when they know how much you care. It's a Maya Angelou quote.
That makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
They will want to know what you know when they know how much you care.
Yeah.
Come on. That's really good. Okay.
It's so powerful. And we all do this. We never want to be talked at. We want to share conversation with. And so when I know that you're seeing and hearing and valuing me as another human, then I'm willing to then listen and grow and be in it with you. Like you're investing in me. So I'm seeing that care. But your role then as an owner, as a leader, is to then cut it off so that you are not carrying them. Your care looks like one thing, but carrying them, if that crosses over into codependency, that happens in any relationship. It's like, I now am carrying you, and that is not my role. I'm going to give over responsibility to you to take this information along with that base of trusted care to say, now, what are your action steps to grow emotionally mature, to be more of a trusted leader? And so you're putting that back in their court. And what they're seeing from you, or seeing you model, Melissa, is that you're choosing resilience. You're choosing that even though things are hard as an owner, and that we're learning things in some ways as we go, that I am not letting those dips define me. I'm letting my coming out of the dip. I'm letting that help all of us as a team come out of a dip together, and we build those resilience muscles. And now we have like a new story to tell. And so I can say I was here at one point, but because I felt cared for and not carried by you, I've actually built that own resilience muscle myself. And that's where things get exciting. It's like you never waste a good crisis then, because you know you came through one before, and we've learned and we've adjusted and we've grown through it, rather than let it victimize us and take us out. So I hope that helps define in a good way.
I wrote that down from when I've heard you say that before. Are you caring for them, or are you carrying them? That struck me as well. And I think sometimes it's hard to know the difference. You're trying to discern, am I carrying them or am I not? I don't know. So, but I love that it's thought provoking. Like it brings awareness just by asking the question.
And it kind of like you can feel it, like the heaviness.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can feel when you feel like you're going up that mountain, you're conquering something, and you're carrying 4 people with you. Like when you go hiking like that, like here in Montana where I live, you're bringing your lightest pack, your lightest shoes, like all of it. You have your supplies, but you're not carrying people. So you feel it as a weight as a leader. And so out of that, then you then determine, like, here's what I will do to support you in your growth. And that could look like, I will give you a little extra time to work outside of the office for some things that are difficult right now. And we all just went through COVID, and we recognize that people's mental health needs to be talked about 100% more in the workplace. But there is that enabling, and there is that codependency that can happen. And we are asking people to grow and become emotionally mature. And that is okay to ask for.
Yeah, I think this is why I probably said this already, but this is why owners avoid the work. Is I can't afford to carry that too. I've got enough that I'm carrying. The business is a heavy lift on its own. Trying to figure out how to make this thing profitable, trying to make sure I can pay everyone's payroll, pay my payroll and make clients happy and still live somewhat of a life myself. Like that is a heavy lift. So But as Pamela said, when we are carrying people, and I see this, I see like people make it black or white. Like either I don't care about emotions and like their emotions at all. Like I can't even know about them, or I'm going to like end up
being mother hen,
being a mother hen and being codependent and, not having a difficult conversation because I'm not sure they can handle it. And really it's that I'm not sure I can handle it, right? Like that's why we typically avoid that, is I'm not sure I can handle it, not necessarily that they can handle it. So we end up pretending like this is a coin, and it's not. It's a continuum. And so there's places in the middle where we can walk as owners, where we can provide guidance and coaching, support, care, but also clear expectations and performance management and goals and outcomes, pace. Like we can expect those things. It's okay, because this is a business and we have to be able to operate as a business. So I think I say that because there's probably people listening who are thinking, there's no way. Like there's no way I can handle having these kinds of conversations or dealing with people in these ways. The truth is, you are dealing with the outcomes of it, regardless if you're dealing with the root of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to mess up the quote, but Brene Brown in Dare to Lead says, if you don't spend time allowing for people's emotions, you will spend a ridiculous amount of time like wasted because of it. And I'm getting that quote completely wrong because it's way better the way she said it. But we can either deal with the outcomes of not dealing with the emotion, or we can just deal with the fact that people do have them and it's going to impact us.
Can I speak to that too? Like that whole list of 10 things, that I shared earlier, Melissa. I mean, that would be a great thing to put in your hiring packet. Like here is how we experience,
I like that idea.
Yeah, experience emotional maturity in our culture. This is our culture of emotional maturity. Now we have all not arrived here, but these are the places that we are aware of and that we want to build into our culture here. And again, I'm going to say that because of these last 2 years, because we felt like there was a whole lot more of life that we could control, and we actually learned we couldn't, that the emotions that were there that we pressed down, and we, a lot of work to press them down, all of a sudden we didn't have the regulation to keep them down anymore. So maybe that's why this conversation is even more present today, because of what we've experienced the last couple of years.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I also identify with what you were just saying, Tara, with what was the statement that you made that I reacted to?
About outcomes?
Yes. Okay, say that one more time.
I don't remember.
I think it was, we deal with
it's the Brene Brown quote.
We may not.
We either deal with the outcomes of their emotions, or we deal with the root.
We deal with the root. Okay, so we either deal with the outcomes of emotions or we deal with the root. That to me, we've had workshops, and there's moments afterwards where I'm like, whoa, just like you said, where I'm like, wait, do we really have to go here? And not in a critical way of you guys. These are just questions that I'm asking. Like, do I, as an owner, like, is this how this has to go? Like, we have to uncover a lot of the stuff that everybody has their own experience of the work and of the workplace and of each other and like the dynamics. And it's like, there is half my brain that's like, can we just work? And then there's half of my brain that's like, as an owner, do I want to deal with this? Do I have a choice? And, just sort of sorting it all out. But the truth is, and what I came to, which again, through the help of understanding this stuff better through you guys, is, well, you cannot deal with it. We could just not kind of go have some depth to these conversations, which are facilitated. And that's important, I think. Or you're dealing with the outcomes of it. So up to you. And I'm a root cause kind of person. I really appreciate identifying root cause. And so there's that. But also, I didn't know that was going to be necessary. As an owner of a business, I did not understand this part of ownership and the importance of getting to root cause and being able to have conversations. And I'm going to say it, I think facilitation is a key, so that everything functions at a higher level in a much healthier way inside of this thing that you value so much. We're talking about the definition of trust. Like, if I value this company so much that, and I choose this definition, choose to risk making something you value vulnerable to another person's actions. If I'm going to do that, I better damn well focus on this element that where I'm questioning, do we really have to go here? Yeah. Because if you don't, you're never going to be able to trust this company with another person's actions. Like, this is kind of goes part and parcel.
Every person listening has been part of a company that chooses not to pay attention to this. And I'm not saying that the way that we do this is the only way to get to this. I mean, there are multiple paths to get to this. And we find that our approach gets there quick, which can be a little scary. So we know that can be a little bit scary to get there quickly, but providing the ongoing support around it so that, I mean, in some cases we work with teams and it's clear that one or two team members is really going to struggle to get there, right? They've got some other stuff going on. It's triggering past work trauma, which we don't talk enough about, by the way. Like, we have real significant, because we get so much of our sense of self-worth from work. We have significant trauma when we have unhealthy leaders or unhealthy workplaces that we work within. So often this will bring some of that up because everyone's bringing their past work experiences, right? So, if I'm bringing in that I got berated publicly every time I made a mistake in my past work life and had really unkind leaders, I'm going to bring that with me. And so when you try and have a conversation with me about a mistake or about something that needs to happen, I'm bringing all that history of humiliation with me. And now you have to deal with that. Now you can deal with it by just being like, whoa, she's sensitive. I'm not sure she's a fit. And then the next person's going to have a different set of baggage they bring. So, so you can go through people who maybe aren't a fit, who maybe haven't had the opportunity to do this work. Or we can recognize that in general, we're going to have to, as a workplace, upskill people when it comes to their emotional maturity. And really that is the work, the trust work helps to give you a common language, but it also brings awareness where people might need to do some additional work on themselves so that they can show up as trustworthy in that space.
One thing that has become really clear to me over the last month, I would say, is that I've realized I'm in a position to give the opportunity. So yeah, this benefits like our team and the way that we work. And so that benefits the company, et cetera. But I think there's something cool. I haven't really thought of like my role in this way before, but there's something cool about, so for all the owners listening, maybe this resonates, that as an owner, you get to provide these opportunities to the individuals that work for you, because yes, we're having these workshops centered around workplace and company, but it is allowing people, it's giving them space, dare I say, to heal pieces and parts of them. And me too. Like, this is all, I'm not sitting back and not participating. And all of us have the opportunity through this work to round ourselves out in a way that provides opportunity in every area of life, not just work. So yeah. I'm humbled by that. Like that's, as an owner, I haven't ever really, I know that I think like, yeah, we're providing opportunities and jobs and things like that. But this feels very different because of this work. It's the first time I felt that I am able to offer depth to the people who work for me. And it's helping them as individuals, as well as, of course, the dynamics in the team and the company. But I think I'm still wrapping my head around that, but it's a pretty cool opportunity.
It's amazing when you can recognize that you aren't just providing a paycheck to them, but that you're bringing value. You're bringing value to their life, Melissa, and you're helping them to value themselves, and you're helping them to discover like what they do really value and how they can bring it into the workplace. But that's like, it's a John Maxwell quote, every day, what I tried to do as a leader is I add value to people. And when you see your team like that, it's a game changer for those who have loyalty, for those who want to grow, for those who, want to do that for others on the team as well. It becomes a whole culture shift that you add to one another.
we are humbled almost every day in the work that we do because we recognize that that is the impact that we get brought in through the workplace typically, but we have this opportunity to do work that's going to impact and have a ripple effect on the employee's life, on their family. So I know we both have really powerful, stories of people we've worked with who they will tell you they're better they're better parents, they're better spouses, they're have stronger personal, because all of this is about relationship. Every single thing we're talking about is a relationship. And so how we enter into relationship with each other at work is not very different than how we enter into relationship at home either. And so there is a real impact. And I know I've quoted this probably in past podcast episode I've been on with you, Melissa, but there is really compelling research that shows that our career well-being has the highest probability of impact on our mental health. Like almost 2 times higher than any other variable is our career well-being. And the 2 variables within that matter most is my role. So is that clear? And do I feel good about my role? And my manager, the person who leads me. So we as leaders do have an incredible honor, responsibility to invest in the people that work with us. And we have the opportunity to really change lives through our leadership.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's just so good. I feel compelled to say that for listeners, I'm offering up stuff that I'm realizing and that I'm learning through the work that I really think matters no matter who you are. And like you said, maybe it doesn't have to be this specific path with a line is what's going to get you there. But clearly it's a path that you can take. But I realize that a lot of listeners, there's a chance that people might have the thought, well, like this podcast is like turned into about Melissa and about her team. But I'm hoping that it just shines a light for people about, gives them ideas for within their teams and gives them some inspiration for maybe how to shift their thinking, or because I'm very in this journey, as you all know. And I feel like I try to make that clear to listeners. Like, I don't think I have stuff figured out. And that's why I'm speaking up about my experience. I'm speaking up because I'm in the middle of it and this is not my expertise. And typically I talk about things that is aligned with my expertise on this podcast, but I think this is important enough that the conversation needs to stay alive, because you can't have a healthy business. We're all here trying to grow our businesses. That's what I help my clients do. But you can't do that if this isn't a consideration as you grow. And so though I'm not the voice for it, I'll offer up my blunders and my messy journey and also have the experts on with me. And I hope that this just gives people a point of reference or a way to think about things.
Well, I just want to say thank you for being so open, vulnerable, because I think it's relatable, right? Being able to share from our own experiences allows people to connect with us in a different way. And it gives us permission to not be perfect. It gives us permission to be on the journey as well, to not have things figured out, to say, I think I see myself in there somewhere, and maybe there. So I think people listen to, whether it's your story, Melissa, or someone else's story, people listen to stories connecting with their own experience. And so I think it's a powerful way to help people learn.
Yeah. And people also tell stories. And so when you think about, if someone asks you, tell me about your best boss, or tell me about your best workplace experience, they're rarely going to say about that big sale that they made, or the big contract that they got, or whatever. They're going to talk about it was my favorite place because of this person who grew me, who saw me, who championed me, who mentored me. And we do that as whole people. We don't just come compartmentalized. We show up whole. And so it's being seen in all of those areas. And I'm guessing, Melissa, that you have a story, like that as well. Like, you're here with the bravery to start of your own business because of people that have been a part of your life. And so you're continuing that this is this story that continues to be told and will be told because you're letting the conversation happen.
The next question I have for you guys is, as we close this up, people listening, of course, they can get in touch with you. If they don't feel ready for that, or for whatever reason, they'd rather just take some steps on their own, what are some concrete things that they can do or focus on that will open their eyes or push them in the right direction that they want to be in, more aligned, creating more trust, improving team dynamics? What would you say are like one or two things even? Maybe it's just one thing.
Maybe each of us can come up with one thing. So grow your own self-awareness as a leader. So there's a lot of different ways you can grow your own awareness. I'm going to give you two quick little ways. So I'm kind of cheating and giving you two within one. So what can you do? We talk about awareness as a practice. It's not something you are or aren't. You grow your awareness and you have to be intentional to continually grow it. So a couple of ways to grow your awareness. One would be get in touch with your own strengths and really do a deep dive on who you are, how you show up, where your blind spots are. Assessments like Clifton Strengths or StrengthsFinder can help you with that. There are other assessments too. So that would be one. And then find some people who will be honest with you and ask for some feedback.
Peers, mentors?
Someone you trust who cares about you. So Dr. Tasha Eurich talks about loving critics. So someone who cares about you enough to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter who that is in your life, just start to practice. And just Pamela and I talk about a question that a leader we respect talks about. What's it like to be on the other side of me? So get in touch with that part. Pamela, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to invite people to think of all areas of their life. So their mental, their emotional, their vocational, and perhaps even their spiritual life. Where do they want to be a year from now? Because if they don't start identifying what's holding them back or developing new habits to change or new habits to grow, a lot like what's been happening with you, Melissa, it will stay the same. And actually, you can never totally stay where you're at. You will atrophy if you don't exercise some new muscles. So a year from now, where do you want to be physically? Where do you want to be vocationally? Where do you want to be relationally with people at work, with people at home? How do you want to grow emotionally? And maybe that involves spiritually as well. So, set that intention a year from now with each one of those things. And then what do you need to get there?
So good. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time.
Hey, you may not know this, but there's a free guide for a process I teach called Monday Map, Friday Wrap. If you go to velocitywork.com, it's all yours. It's about how to plan your time and honor your plans so that week over week, more work that moves the needle is getting done in less time. Go to velocitywork.com to get your free copy. Thank you for listening to the Law Firm Owner Podcast. If you're ready to get clearer on your vision, data, and mindset, then head over to velocitywork.com where you can plug in to quarterly strategic planning with accountability and coaching in between. This is the work that creates velocity.